They heated entire cabins in freezing war zones without modern heating. 10 World War II secrets builders forgot. Something doesn't add up. Soldiers in World War II survived brutal winters in wooden cabins, thin huts, even makeshift shelters. Yet many modern homes today struggle to stay warm without blasting expensive heaters. No smart thermostats, no insulation foam, just raw, practical intelligence. And somehow it worked better than what we build now. Let's break it down. These are not myths. These are field-tested heating tactics that kept people alive when failure meant frostbite. Or worse. And once you see them, you'll start wondering why modern construction walked away from ideas this effective. Heat-trapping geometry. World War II cabins weren't just thrown together, their shape mattered. Builders understood that heat rises and escapes fast, so ceilings were kept lower. Not cramped, just controlled. Less vertical space meant heat stayed where people actually lived. Modern homes love tall ceilings. Looks good, feels open. But thermally, it's a heat leak waiting to happen. Those old cabins forced heat to stay low, dense and usable. A simple adjustment in ceiling height can dramatically reduce heat loss even today. Layered walls that breathe and trap. Instead of relying on one thick wall, wartime builders used layers. Wood, air gaps, fabric, sometimes even paper. That air gap is key. Still, air acts like insulation. It slows down heat transfer. Today, we rely heavily on synthetic insulation, but the principle hasn't changed. Multiple layers outperform a single barrier. Those cabins used what they had, but the science was solid. A layered wall system can still outperform basic construction if done right. The power of interior fabric. This one sounds simple, it's not. Inside many cabins, walls were lined with cloth, blankets, even spare uniforms. Not for decoration, for insulation. Fabric traps air, air traps heat. That inner lining reduced drafts and created a secondary thermal barrier. Think of it as insulation you can install overnight. Even now, hanging thick curtains or fabric on walls in cold spaces can noticeably raise indoor temperatures. It's low-tech, high-impact. Centralized heat positioning. They didn't just place a stove anywhere. Placement was strategic. Dead center. Always. Why? Because, well, heat radiates outward. A central heat source distributes warmth evenly instead of losing it to one side of the structure. Corners waste heat. Centers maximize it. You know, modern layouts sometimes ignore this. Fireplaces pushed to edges, heaters tucked away. It looks neat, but it's inefficient. World War II builders prioritized survival over aesthetics, and it shows. Thermal mass inside the cabin. Here's where it gets smart. Stones, bricks, even packed earth were placed near heat sources. These materials absorb heat during the day and slowly release it at night. That means warmth continues even after the fire dies down. It's passive heating, no extra fuel required, just physics doing the work. Today, thermal mass is still used in advanced eco-homes, but these wartime cabins were already doing it under pressure. Sealed, but not suffocated. Cabins were sealed tight, every crack mattered. Drafts were the enemy. But here's the balance, they didn't seal everything completely. Controlled ventilation was maintained to prevent smoke build-up and moisture problems. This balance is critical. Too open, you lose heat. Too sealed, you risk air quality. World War II builders mastered this middle ground through simple methods like adjustable vents and layered door coverings. Modern homes often rely on mechanical systems for this. Back then, it was all manual and surprisingly effective. Raised sleeping platforms. You know, cold air sinks and warm air rises. They knew this instinctively. Beds were raised, sometimes just a few inches, sometimes more. Sleeping higher meant staying in the warmer air layer. It might sound minor, but it's not. Even a small elevation can make a noticeable difference in perceived warmth during the night. In extreme cold, that difference can be the line between rest and exhaustion. Entryway heat traps. Doors were a major heat loss point. So, what did they do? They created buffer zones. A simple double-door system or a hanging curtain behind the main door acted like an airlock. Cold air enters, but it doesn't rush straight into the living space. Modern homes call this a vestibule. Back then, it was just smart survival design. And honestly, it worked incredibly well. Floor insulation that actually mattered. Floors were treated seriously, because ground cold is relentless. Cabins often used raised wooden floors with air gaps underneath, sometimes layered with straw, fabric, or even branches. This prevented direct contact with freezing ground temperatures. Today, people focus heavily on walls and ceilings, but forget floors. World War II builders didn't make that mistake. They insulated from the ground up, literally. Multi-use heat sources. Nothing wasted heat, ever. Stoves were not just for warmth. They cooked food, dried clothes, heated water. Every bit of energy served multiple purposes. This efficiency reduced fuel consumption dramatically. In a war setting, that mattered a lot. Modern systems separate everything. Heating system, oven, dryer, water heater, each consuming energy independently. Back then, one source did it all. Reflective heat control. Here's a trick that feels almost modern. Reflective surfaces placed behind heat sources. Metal sheets, even polished materials, were used to bounce heat back into the room instead of letting it escape into walls. That's the same principle behind modern radiator reflectors. But these builders figured it out decades ago with whatever materials they could find. Small tweak, big difference. Why these ideas still matter? This isn't nostalgia. It's efficiency. World War II forced people to strip heating down to its core principles. No excess, no waste, just what works. And here's the truth. Many modern buildings prioritize design over performance. Open spaces, large windows, high ceilings. Beautiful, yes. Efficient, not always. These old methods weren't just clever. They were necessary. And that necessity created systems that still outperform modern setups in certain conditions. You don't need to live in a wartime cabin to use these ideas. Even small changes, like better heat placement, adding fabric layers, sealing drafts, or using thermal mass, can transform how a space retains warmth. This is knowledge built under pressure, tested in real survival conditions. Not theory, not guesswork. And maybe that's why it hits different. Because when comfort disappears, only what truly works survives. If you found this useful, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who's tired of wasting heat and money. And if you want more forgotten tactics that still work today, make sure you subscribe to Ancient Tactics.